You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K25. It's myself, Mooncey, alongside me as always, three-time NBA champion, Mr. BJ Armstrong. BJ, how you doing, brother?
Oh man, it's all good today, Bo. And we're just still with our Detroit Lions. I see you wearing your Honolulu blue, so you're
Well,
coming
mine's
around.
mine's kind of
You're
different. It's from All-Star
it's
weekend, but it's the
it's
right color. I wore it
it's
especially for the playoffs this weekend
yes,
or next weekend.
yes.
But the Detroit Lions aren't the only team rolling. The Detroit Pistons have won 8 of their last 9 games.
Mm, mm,
Talk to me, B.
mm.
Talk to me.
Well, I would love to tell you that, I could have said this was the year they were going to take their jump, right? Or
Hmm.
what have you. But what I will say is this. They're playing with a renewed sense of energy. I think they're feeding off of the energy in the city of Detroit from the Lions. And Detroit is a great sports town, with the Detroit Pistons, prior to the current roster and the current team. And I think they're just feeding off of that. I think the city is bubbling right now. The Detroit Lions are just, they're on a mission.
I understand the sentiment. I think it's more Cade Cunningham is absolutely hooping right now. JB has done a great job bringing in kind of a new culture to the locker room, it seems. So I think it's a little more than the football team's doing well, so the basketball team's playing better because the football team was doing well last year and these guys lost 28 straight games.
Again, you just asked me. I'm just telling you what
Yeah,
what,
yeah,
what
yeah.
everyone
No,
said to me. I
you
I
you
think
say you like to keep it on the court. So what are you seeing on the court though?
yeah, but it's one thing when you play, for instance, when I play, no matter what, the football gave you a sense of like the fan base there in the city, right? I remember when I first came to Chicago, for instance, I got a sense of the fan base that fall before our season started and just watching the Bears. That just it had nothing to do with us. However, it gives you an idea. Just like when you were at school, your fan base, right, in university here
Yeah.
kind of goes over to the other fan base. So I think the fan base of the Lions right now, which is dominating the sports world here in America, not just in Detroit. You go to every talk show here on television, radio, podcast, they're talking about the energy and the vibe in the city of Detroit. That carries over. I think it gives you a sense of every time you turn around, you're in the same city and you lose 28 games and the other team is the darling of the media. It gives you a different vibe.
Yeah.
It gives you a different vibe of saying, well, we lost 28. It's not getting any better. It puts pressure on everyone. It puts pressure on the other organizations to say, hey, get your stuff together.
Mm.
Because the Lions right now have set the standard. Don't forget, Mo, just a few years ago, we were 0 and 16. Okay. Now all of a sudden, people are talking about culture and people are talking about those things. So I think it's a carryover from a lot of different things. When you see the success, when you're around successful people, suddenly you start asking yourself, hey, what do I have to do to be in that place? No one wants to be 0 and 28. No one wants that. So I think what has happened is you see the energy, the vibe, the determination of one group, and that could be from anywhere. It just happened for the Detroit Pistons for it to be in the same town.
Mm.
I got a call from people that work from the Pistons right after the game on Sunday night. And they said, now that this team is on the path to the playoffs, guess what that means for all the other organizations within the city, all the other sports teams? They can't rebuild. They can't. I mean, think about it. One team is talking about the Super Bowl, and the other team is talking about we're rebuilding. It doesn't play well.
The Celtics are talking about the championship and the Patriots are nowhere to be seen.
But the Patriots have been such a well-oiled machine for so long. The standard for them is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So right now they are in a transition. However, for better or for worse, I don't know the situation. It seems like uh, the decision that was made, how do I say it? But this guy was only there for like 1 year.
Who?
Like
Who?
the coach there for the Patriots.
Oh, Belichick.
No, no,
I don't know.
they I think
Oh,
they
they got
just
a
made a
new one.
coaching change. Yeah,
Okay.
they
Okay.
got a new coaching change.
But back to the basketball, right? The Pistons are 18 and 18. They're finally at 500. They're 3 games out of the 4 seed in the East. Are you looking at the Detroit Pistons as a playoff team in the Eastern Conference this year?
I think there's a lot of basketball to play with this team. They've gone through so much as a group. They've gone through so much as an organization over the last couple of years, and all of a sudden now we're talking about playoffs as if like like okay, this team was expected to make the playoffs this year. They've got a nice, they've hit a nice groove within their season. They've really played well. I think they've shown some things that they didn't show last year. In particular, Cade Cunningham. I think
Finally healthy.
they got some veterans.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
since
that's
Jaden Ivey went down, a different veteran has scored 20 plus points in each game. Tobias had 24, Malik had 23, Tim Hardaway had 26. So the veterans are stepping up in the absence of their youngster.
yeah, yeah. So I just think you find your way. But most importantly, I think their best player right now, Cade Cunningham, has been consistently, score. I don't know what his average is this year, but he's consistently scoring above 20 points a night. That's a great sign for him. Jalen Duren has, he has
Cade's
been,
almost at 25 and 10.
yeah. So I think in Jalen Duren and these guys are figuring it out and they're figuring out their role. But I think that I think their biggest move was getting veteran players
Hmm.
who, the ones like you just mentioned here, Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway and those guys. I think that's probably been their biggest jump as far as who they are as a team currently. But again, we'll see. I mean, when you start talking about the playoffs, that's going to take an 82 game schedule to do
Yeah.
that. But
Well,
I like what they're doing though.
the thing with the Pistons is they currently have the lowest payroll in the entire NBA. I think their going out salary is only 125 million this season, which is 20 million less than the Utah Jazz, who are second lowest. Their name has been brought up in a lot of trade discussions in terms of being a third team in facilitating some of these trades. For example, a Jimmy Butler trade, them being a third team and potentially going and getting a Bradley Beal. What would you think about adding another player of some significance whilst they have the salary flexibility to do so?
I'm not really into these trades. I'm not big on trades for sake of trading. Okay, so I'm going to add Bradley Beal to the Pistons, right? Is that what you're saying, or being a
Just
third?
hypothetically, just in any deal,
Yeah,
because the teams find it so hard to trade now directly that they need a third team to, facilitate it. And a team like the Pistons could take on additional assets as well as salary in any of these deals.
I just don't get it. I'm too far removed now to take on salaries for what purpose? Okay, let's look at the ways that you get your team better, right? Um, the draft isn't the draft the way we used to value the draft, the NBA draft.
Hmm.
We're not getting Shaquille O'Neal out of the draft anymore. We're not getting Patrick Ewing, Akeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan. So, what's our value on the draft? What is our value right now, other than the draft? Other than to say, you're getting a player at this salary. Like,
Well,
what is the
I mean,
value?
they drafted Kay Cunningham, they drafted Jalen Duren, they drafted Jaden
Okay,
Ivey.
but here we are. What, 3 years, 4 years later? We
Yeah.
still haven't made the
Well, it's the
playoffs.
first time they've been 500 since 2019. So it's
Okay.
6 years ago. They were 500.
So again,
So I don't
what's
know
our
if I'd survive
value?
6 years of my team being under 500.
What's our value and what's our expectations now of the draft? It's not the same. It's not the same now. It's so okay. So here we are, we get the number one pick, and here we are 5 years later, still what talking about
Yeah,
can we
it's,
get to
it's
the
been 3 years
playoffs?
since you got Cade, so
This is new territory for the NBA and what you're doing and what we're expecting, what we used to do. You get a David Robinson at the number one pick, and suddenly, you figured that you got a player you can build around, you could turn this thing around. Well, that's not the case anymore, and it's no disrespect to the players today. It's just a different time. So, what value do we currently have for impacting winning in the draft? I
I hear
mean,
what you're
look at
saying.
the, yeah, I mean, look at the top 3 or 4 picks right now. Like, I mean, what impact are we, what are we saying here? Like, and this is just a different time. It's a
Yeah, you're
different
not
era.
getting an immediate impact from
Impact
players that
player,
you draft. You're drafting them in the hope that somewhere down the line,
like,
like Ricochet, Alex Sarr's been good to be fair. Reed Shepherd getting sent to the G League, Stephon Castle, he's been contributing.
yeah.
Ron Holland, who's the fifth pick, he's been valuable for the Pistons this season with his defense.
I mean, it's just a different time. Like, so you say, well, Alex Sarr has been good, right? He was the number 2 pick, correct?
Yeah,
They lost like every game in the month of what, November or something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Another wizard
And
stick.
then, but we have a different way of looking at it. So you're the number 2 pick, you lose every game, but now we look at the stats and we say, well, the stats say such and such and such and such. Well, I don't know. I don't. It's a different time. I'm not. Just what it is now. Like I don't comprehend why you play if you're not trying to win. Well, I got mine. So, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, are we on a team or is this just an individual sport where you just get your numbers and then your numbers justify whatever? I don't know. I don't understand the mindset. But what I do comprehend is you're looking for impactful players that contribute to winning. And that will never change. However, we can change the narratives, but I'm not buying into that. I'll sit on the sideline as everyone else is getting their numbers. Just give me people who contribute to winning. I just want people who contribute and understand that part of the game of why
But you
we
could make
play.
a case though that Ron Holland, the fifth pick in the draft, has contributed to the Pistons winning games this season with the defensive intensity that he brings.
Make your argument. Make your argument.
Do you
Whatever
not
your
do you
contribute,
do you not think that he has been contributing?
what I think is when you start drafting players in the top 5 in the lottery, that comes with the responsibility of saying we think that you at the very least is a starter in this league.
Mm.
Now, Ron Holland, is he a starter or is he what's his contribution? Now, do I think he has a chance to be a good player? Absolutely. But when you start getting drafted in the lottery, that comes with a level of responsibility. That's what we're saying. We're saying I'm drafting a guy with the 5th pick who is on a 500 team coming off the bench. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Why would is that where we're at now?
Yes. That's
Okay.
exactly where we are.
Well, if that's where we're at, I'm just not going to lower my standard. I respect it because it is what it is, but I'm just not going to lower my standard of saying if I'm drafted in the lottery, right? If I were in a team, hypothetically, I'm going to at least, at the very least, get me a starter caliber athlete who can start in this league. What's the point of being in the lottery if I'm looking for a player coming off the bench? that what's the point of doing all of these things that these teams are doing if I can't get an impactful player as a starter level athlete in the light? What's the point? There are a lot of good players that you can get that are rotational players. I'm getting in the lottery to get what? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. Now, you can spin it however you want to spin it. However, when I start getting in that lottery, I'm looking for a starter. I'm looking for a player who can start defensively. I'm looking for a player who can score. I'm looking for a player who can rebound. I'm looking for a player who can actually contribute to me as a starter in this league, as a lottery. If not, what's the point of being in the lottery then? Well, I just got a player. I just needed to plug in a player to come off my bench. That I can't afford for myself. Now, if that's how they're doing it, maybe that's why I'm not in the NBA. But I'm not going to lower my standards to fit someone else's agenda because that doesn't even, how do you even sell that to your owner? We did all this
Development.
losing last year. Yeah, okay. But we all know that the NBA's strong point is not developing players. Yeah. Let's get past that word development. I've taken that word out of my vocabulary when I regard to the NBA. Okay, there's no development. These people are getting paid to perform. This is professional sports. So, but that's just where I'm at with it.
I hear it. In other news, the Sacramento Kings, since firing Mike Brown, are now 5-1. They've been playing pretty nice. Oftentimes, when teams in all sports make a coaching adjustment, they do see an uptick in play because obviously players want to impress the new coach and get their minutes and whatnot. But I do like that they're playing more Keon Ellis, that he's not getting benched every time he makes a mistake. But do you think Doug Christie here is the answer for the Kings? Do you think like this is sustainable, this 5-1, or do you think it's just a flash in the pan and they're going to kind of revert to the team they were before?
We're going to see. Look, I'm a look. I know Coach Brown, and that was a tough situation. Um, I don't know, Coach Christie as well. I know him, but I don't know him as well. And I'm rooting for him, right? Being a former player in the NBA. And however, you got to look at all of the variables, right? Scheduling, guys coming back, injuries. Who knows what the case is? You got to be in the locker room to be able to fairly answer those questions. And I'm not naive enough to think that I know by just watching from the outside. But what I will say is this: when a team starts doing different things offensively and they start playing different, it takes a little time for the rest of the league to kind of catch up, to figure out how to defend them. It's kind of like when you play against a team and a star player is not playing, you don't know how to defend that team because now they have a new identity.
Mm.
So now, Mo, this is why I always come. This is why I always say this at the beginning of the season. Give me about 20, 25 games.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you got a hot start. The Lakers were started off with like 12-3. The
Yeah.
the
Warriors.
the Warriors started out hot. Okay, give me about 25 games to let me feel this through and figure it out. And then I can give you an assessment. However, when you win and you take a 6-game sample and then you project that onto the well, that's
Yeah.
not fair. So we'll see. I think right now, there's a little discomfort, if you will, in the Sacramento. I mean, they took a little heat for the firing. They took a little heat, the players, and those guys are veterans. Those guys have a lot of pride. So, there's a lot of things that came out of
Yeah.
there. So that's good. Sometimes that's good. Being uncomfortable sometimes is good. I think that's what has happened with this group. Now, let's see late February.
Yeah, this is what Malik Monk said. He says, we bought into what Doug Christie is doing. We all just bought into it and we all feel good and confident in what he's saying. He played before, so I think he knows how to say it to us in a little better than people that didn't play the game before. So,
Whatever works, works. I
yeah,
don't know what that means. We could take that a lot. What I do know is that in the end, this league is about results, and you do what you got to do to get the results that you're looking for. So
yeah,
whatever has been said in the last 6 games, 5 of them have been the right thing. It's worked. Now let's see what happens. Let's see what's going to happen when you hit a bump in the road, because I know success has to go through adversity. I
yeah,
know success has to go through obstacles. Now, when you win, everything is great. But let's see what happens when if you hit a few bumps in the roads. And then once you hit a few bumps in the roads, let's see how we come out on the other end. Because coaching is hard, playing is hard, and when you win, everything just feels great. And right
Yeah.
now they were 5-1 right now after 6 games, which is terrific. I think they've had a nice little homestand
Yeah, and Devin
that they've
Carter made his debut, their lottery pick from
yeah,
this year's draft.
yeah. So I mean, here we are, so give them credit. It's hard to win in this league. You win the games you're supposed to win, but at the same time, if you're going to be great, if you're going to be successful, you got to get through the adversity.
Mhm.
So that's to me is always the indicator of how good someone or some team really is.
Well, tonight, the Denver Nuggets, who have started to get back on track after a rough start to the season, they're up to fourth in the West now, 20 and 14. They host the Boston Celtics. Before we go here, what are you looking for in tonight's game?
Well, the Celtics have had an interesting week. I mean, they've played some really good teams.
They've had a tough road trip here after
Yeah, it's a
Christmas.
tough road trip. So, I think there is this the end of a long road trip for them.
Yeah, I believe so. I think their
Yeah,
next game
so
after this one is
this could be one
at
of those
home to the
games.
Kings.
Yeah, I think this is, they're at the end of a long road trip. I think they played OKC,
Houston, Minnesota.
Houston. Yeah, so this has been a tough trip for them. I'm not expecting much from this game, and
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not putting a lot of emphasis on this game. I expect Denver to win. If you were to ask me who I think is
Yeah,
going to win,
I agree.
uh, I expect Denver to win, and then we'll see. I think this is a tough scheduling right now for the Celtics. We all have tough scheduling
Yeah.
practices. What are they like 26-10 or something right now, or somewhere
Yeah, they're
around there?
26 and 10.
Yeah. So I think right now, they get through this game, put up a good fight, and move on to the next one. But I think this is going to be a tough game to win because of scheduling. Sometimes you got to look at the schedule and say, hey, it's a tough stretch. And I think this is part of their schedule where it's really tough right now. And they're playing really good teams.
Well, that's another quick episode of the Hoop Genius podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. So make sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast from. I will be locked into the Celtics and Nuggets tonight, as well as all the other games, and we'll bring you everything you need to know tomorrow morning. You look like you were going to say something there, B.
No, no, I'm
No,
good.
no, we
No, no,
good.
no.
We
Yeah,
good.
I'm
We
good.
clear for today.
Yeah, I'm good. No, no, I'm good. I'm not saying anything.
We keep it short and sweet today. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone who listened.
Okay. All right, Bo.
And until next time, get buckets.